and hello everyone. I'm Shalab, founder and CEO of Trademo. And this webinar today is about global supply chain and how data can be leveraged by all stakeholders across logistics, across buyers, suppliers, trade finance, even investment companies, which definitely have stake in some of these entities engaged in global trade, to both identify opportunities as well as navigate risk. And what has happened in last 1 year, as we all know, world has completely changed, and nothing exemplifies that as better than global trade, right? So if you talk about closing of borders, the rising of tariffs across different countries, trade wars, the shortages of raw materials, everything has together significantly disrupted supply chains. And in time, the data intelligence and what we are going to present comes very handy to navigate through these challenges. So we have a small presentation post which we will also talk about how this can be achieved through a live demo of the product. But just let me quickly jump. So let's first talk about how global supply chains work, right? Now, global supply chains consists of participants like suppliers, buyers, which could include both manufacturers, traders, and then logistic companies, which includes the large shipping carrier lines, the freight forwarders, the NVOCCs, the customs authorities, which are responsible for collecting import duties as well as for ensuring that there's no illicit trade happening, and the banks and FIs, which play a very central role in the global supply chains because most of the global trade is financed by these institutions, right? As on today, around 19 trillion of global trade happens in the physical goods, right? So which is around 25% of the global GDP, and out of which around 16 trillion worth of trade is financed by institutions like trade finance institutions or trade credit insurance institutions. All in all, around 10 million businesses, which includes large, mid-sized, small suppliers, buyers, trade every year between themselves in the physical exchange of goods across different countries. Yeah, but there are still several unaddressed problems in global supply chains, right? So the first problem is basically the visibility, right? The different stakeholders in global trade do not have complete visibility on the complex multi-tier supply chain network. When I say multi-tier, is basically who is my suppliers or who is my fourth degree supplier, which has become significantly more important given all the ESG compliances, visibility, compliance issues, as well as what we have seen recently of supply chains getting disrupted in events like COVID. And the lack of this visibility and the data in the overall supply chains makes it extremely hard to assess the known and the unknown risks which are prevalent in your supply chain. Most of the businesses today, not just large and mid, even the larger businesses today lack tools to understand how they can build more resilience in their supply chain. Let's take example of Suez Canal, the overall cost of containers going through the roof, the semiconductor shortage, which is still prevailing. These are the events which are not just black swan events like COVID, but these are the events which happen very regularly in global supply chains as the world is becoming more connected. And the overall process of discovery of new markets and partners for businesses is still an age-old process where it takes up to 24 weeks to identify a new partners, but businesses still do not have complete visibility or trust in the business that they're partnering with. And with all these developments happening, the governments and the customs are also making the compliances more and more comprehensive, which sometimes introduce new risks for the business, sudden risk, I would say, and also at some times create opportunities for them. But for a business which is focused on manufacturing or supplying their goods, it becomes very overwhelming to deal with all of these changes. But there's an interesting angle here. The irony is, though the core problem of supply chains is around visibility, but at the same time, global trade in particular generates the most amount of data compared to any other trade or domestic trade. So let's talk about what all these data points which gets created every year like billions of data points with different sources. The first is the trade transactional data. So a lot of governments actually publish the trade transactional data, which is basically the transactional data of what an exporter is selling to another buyer in another country, with their pricing information, with the quantity, with the trade route that they have taken, right? And then there is data of millions of these companies, as I mentioned, which are participant in global trade. A lot of this information is available on web around their actual geolocations, the certifications that they have taken, the ESG compliances which they have to be compliant with, and the other data points. And then all the customs authorities are regularly maintaining and publishing a lot of regulatory data. For example, what are the denied parties? What are the sanctions across different countries, across different products, the free trade agreements, the tariffs or the import duties, countervailing duties, how the products which move borders, they have to be classified across different HS codes. What licenses do they require for trading? And as we know that all of these goods get classified into some 10,000 odd different universally identified HS codes, there is a lot of data which is published around the trade value, the volume, and the unit rate of these goods on an annual or a monthly basis. And then definitely there is data on the economic, labor, logistics, currency related markets of all the major trading economies which is available. So just to explain this, all the businesses are struggling to find visibility into their supply chains. At the same time, more than 500 different sources are publishing data on a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual basis, which is not getting consumed, right? So what is the solution to all of this? And we believe that to tame the problem, what we need is a global supply chain knowledge graph, right? And this is the aim at Trademo, that we are trying to organize the overall global trade information into knowledge. So knowledge graph is a technology with which multiple disparate data sources in different languages, different shapes, forms can be combined to produce meaningful or analysis. Google today powers its entire search by a knowledge graph built from the web data. And Facebook is nothing but a knowledge graph of the social network. And this is how the knowledge graph of global supply chain looks like. As you see in this slide, we can map suppliers with their buyers. So basically, who the suppliers is, all the buyers whom they are supplying to. Definitely, these are cross-border transactions. We can map the different product categories or HS codes with all these suppliers and buyers. What are the major ports that they are using for their trade routes? What countries do they belong to? Who are these suppliers, or what are the free trade agreements that they are leveraging to conduct this trade? Or what are the carriers which they are using regularly to move these goods from one place to another place? So now let me move to a real life example of this. What you see here is a knowledge graph of Crate and Barrel, which is a US based furniture and home decor retailer. Now, through our own data, and this is publicly authentic, legally sourced data, we are able to create a very deep knowledge graph on Crate Barrels. This is just a glimpse of it, where we are able to map all their suppliers. We are able to identify who these suppliers are supplying to just in US and in other countries as well. What are the different HS codes they are dealing in? From what all countries do they belong to? What are the ports or trade routes they are using, right? So all of these data can be actually generated when we try to combine multiple data sources together in our knowledge graph. And now just imagine how much value this can be for Crate and Barrel, its suppliers, even just for competition understanding, for any of these businesses or even the logistics partners to understand how all these factors together are impacting their business on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so just before you proceed further, Shalabh, I would just like to intimate everybody that we are getting few questions and we would be taking them right after the presentation, and then so you don't have to wait till the end of the hour-long webinar to address all the questions. I can already see some of the participants have typed questions. We will also be giving you some surveys and some 5-6 questions during the webinar, and this is just to enrich the information that we have on how people are using data in their decision making today and how that can be improved. So please keep writing your questions. We will take that up. And just in case, I mean, we have suppliers, buyers, logistic firms, consultants, everybody joining in. And there is a popular joke which goes that sometimes when you are a supplier and you are supplying to very hard timelines, people don't care who you are. But let me tell you, if you are a supplier, try missing a couple of delivery dates and you will come to know why you are alive.
Thanks. Thanks
So,
again.
so yeah, back to the presentation.
Yeah. So please keep sharing those questions, and we will try to answer all of them. Just moving on to the presentation, once we have something as powerful as a knowledge graph on global supply chain, we can actually aim to answer some of the holy grail of global supply chain. So we discussed, can I trust this company whom I want to partner and whom I'm depending on my business for the next 5 years, 10 years? And what are the vulnerabilities in my supply chain? What are the known and unknown risks in my supply chain that I should be concerned about? Are there any new regulations that have come up which I'm not aware, right? Because maybe I'm using a customs broker or freight forwarder, which is not that updated on all of these regulations that I have to be compliant with. So this is what this knowledge graph is aimed at, that some of the deepest questions of the supply chain can be answered very easily for the businesses to help them prosper their business without worrying too much about the risk involved in a day-to-day transaction. Now, coming to who all can use this data, we believe that anyone who has a stake in global supply chains should use trade data intelligence. The suppliers can use this data to not just identify new market opportunities, but also to understand the current share of the business they have with their existing customers. Right? The buyers can definitely use this data to find the right procurement price or the movements in the overall trend with respect to demand of a particular commodity they are dealing in. The logistic companies can use this data to understand where should they allocate their resources, on which particular ports, on which particular trade routes, and to identify the right businesses for themselves. Trade finance institutions can use this data to find out credit-worthy customers for themselves by looking at their all past transactions, as well as use it for monitoring their current portfolio on a better basis and maybe do better risk pricing for them. The consultants, it could be the management consulting companies which are looking at the macro product trends or macro global supply chain trends. Also, the procurement focused consulting companies or global trade compliance related consulting companies who have to use this data to better guide their clients through global trade. And then the policy bodies themselves, which we have recently seen examples where government, when they are making policies, they also want to look at the actual market transactions which have happened in the past to make better policies and sometimes also to judge the efficacy of their current program. So this is what we have seen. We have actually served customers in most of these categories, whether these are buyers, suppliers, the sourcing consultants, the logistic companies, the trade consultants, even law firms. This range from use cases as standard as procurement to something like where a law firm wants to use this data to help their clients with the supply chain disputes. I think now it's time we can see the product actually in action. And over to you, Vivek.
So I've been reading on all the interesting questions which have been coming up. So even before I go over to the demo, I will just take a couple of generic queries which have come. Words, if you have not listened to them, most of our panelists or most of our attendees would be very familiar with it. But I'll tell you, when we say big data, that doesn't mean if you're an importer or exporter, you have to be bogged down by thinking about a lot of data coming your way and how do you make decisions because of that. All you have to know is that there are tools available out there, and a lot of them now, including some very smart ones like Trademo, which actually use all this bulky data and make it very readable. So as a small importer and exporter, you don't really have to worry about placing a large team to analyze the data, to know people who are good at data science yourself. You just need to know some smart people who can just log in, and it's as simple as using Google and this data would be very, very useful in a lot of aspects, which we would be covering very shortly with the demo that I'm presenting. So that was a question from Pratay. I hope, Pratay, I am able to answer your question.
Few questions which I think I will like to quickly take. One is from Christian. Christian Alpers. So, Christian, interesting question. And the data that now Trademo source comes from multiple countries in multiple forms. So for US, it's bill of lading data. For Mexico, it's the other declaration data, and so for Latin American countries. So the coverage of the data depends on the country. So for example, for US, we cover 93% of the overall imports coming into US because it's all the ocean imports. And for Mexico, we cover all the export and imports by all trade routes. With regards to confidentiality, different countries have different regulations around it. So for example, US allows a consignee or an importer to do not reveal their name in a particular bill of lading document, but we still get to know all the other details like the quantity, the HS code that we determine, the overall volume of that particular shipment, and the pricing as well. So yes, as an consignee, specifically when we are talking about US ocean imports, there is a process by which one can choose not to reveal their complete details. Okay, so I think the first difference, as we explained, is that Trademo is not limited to the trade transactional data. We are building a large trade knowledge graph where we are linking disparate data sources onto a single knowledge base. So that means we are also now capturing compliance data. We are capturing data from multiple countries, and we'll be able to show the transactions of a particular company, not just from US, but from, let's say, Mexico or Latin American countries also. So take an example of a Mexico-based exporter who is supplying to US, but who is also importing from, let's say, Argentina. So we'll be able to show all the transactions and trading activities of that particular supplier in one place. At the same time, we have tried to make this platform super intuitive for an SMB to a mid-market or even to a large enterprise. I think that's the feedback which we have received from our other users who find some of these other platforms, which are older platforms, to be more not so intuitive, I would say. Then this platform also there's a major difference in terms of come with annual commitments. Trademo offers the choice of countries that you want to make, whereas a lot of these other platforms you have to subscribe to all the countries that they have. So there is more flexibility in what we are offering at Trademo. We are a trade data intelligence company, but we actually work with a lot of other trade finance institutions who regularly use our data to either underwrite companies from where they're receiving these applications, or to identify new opportunities, SMBs who are the right fit for their business.
Sorry, great question. This not just applies to trade institutions like trade finance institutions like banks and financial institutions. It also helps if you are a buyer, if you are a logistics company, to know what is the kind of customer that you're dealing with, or what is the kind of importer you're dealing with. There are a lot of importers who might seem great in sales pitches, but if you have the data at hand, you can actually get to know what is the sort of forecast they have on their shipments, so that you don't really fall into the trap of just believing the salesperson, but also look at data tools to ensure that you are landing right as a bank, you're buying right as a buyer, and you're shipping right as a logistics partner. So Guru, just to answer your question, how can you find this as a bank? So let me just see. Suppose you are looking at a supplier from a supplier who is supplying rubber tires, and you want to see their credit worthiness. So if you are a bank, you can always come to the search shipments, see, of course, the different companies in rubber tires, see the product trends of rubber tires to see how many shipments and what is the average price of rubber tires in general. But you can also, like I'm trying to choose a particular company. I do not really know anybody in rubber tire as such, but let's see, I'll pick a company from here. So this is a detail which has not been declared, where the container and the details have been.
So maybe just going to unique exporters will give us a list of all the companies.
Yeah. Okay, I think, yeah, that's quicker. Okay, so let's say you are trying to pick up a company which is not so well known and which is smaller, and you are trying to see what is the kind of forecast they have. So let's see, let's pick TWS USA as your client. So now TWS USA have been making tall claims about the kind of working capital they need and the kind of shipments that they import into the US from across the world. Now, what you can do as a bank is you can always check this against the claims that they are making, and there are API solutions readily available to our banking partners, where you will not even need to log into this tool, but at your own CRM, at your own SAP or anything that you use, you can directly look at this information, the kind of shipments that this client has done, so that you also know that if they are forecasting something, are they actually able to even, meet up to those demands. And you cannot really suddenly expect a player who's not done a shipment to suddenly start and shipping a lot more. That would be taking more risk than ideal. The second way is probably if you are an exporter and if you try to see that shall you give credit to an importer who's asking for a 120-day import period in US, and they claim to be very, very sound and big company financially. So you can always see what is the kind of shipments and other trading partners these players have, and what is the size of the business, whether you should be extending a particular rate, a particular invoicing settlement period. All that could always be judged and validated against the kind of data that you have at hand. So that's another one which can be useful using the data tools. We only have 8 minutes, so I'll pick up some regular questions, but just to give it a pause here and come back to the questions. So yeah. So today one more question was that. And which came to you as a tool as well. And I think somebody answered this question, this poll, and then asked this question because this just appeared here. And it says that, how can my business development team use this as a lead generation tool? So as we saw, your business development tool, your business development teams can actually log into it, find relevant leads who have very high probability of buying or selling, because they can always see the activity in such tools. And that will make those pitches much more relevant, those conversions way more higher, and that ROI on a salesperson ideal, in the sense that with a small team you can do wonders.
we have data available from 10 plus countries now, which covers roughly around 35% of the global trade. I would say, give or take, some 7-8 trillion of annual global trade, which provides us access to over 5.5 million entities, or around 55% of the global entities who are having cross-border transactions on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. Bhavi, I mean, just to add to what Shalabh said, that you don't need to get bogged down by the enormity of the task, that if you're looking for something particular, would a lot of data confuse you? No. If the data is in very actionable form and it is in easy to read interface, you will find decision making only becomes way more easy, like we know with all the everyday emails that we use or all the everyday tools that we use. So like Shalabh said, that the data which we have comes from this. We've already made live the United States, Mexico version. In the next few weeks, we will start seeing Latin America, North America plans. We will start seeing how to use straight away 7 countries data for taking decisions. But as Shalabh rightly pointed out, 35% of the shipments are available in this tool, which will give you almost all the actionable information that you need as an importer, as an exporter, as a supplier, as a banker, as a consultant.
Yes, Pranjal, we have subscribers from India as well. They are suppliers mostly to markets in North America, Latin America, and we similarly we have subscribers from other countries like China, Mexico, and all. Shashwat, this is in our roadmap. As I mentioned, like we are integrating the regulatory data also onto our knowledge graph, which includes the duties data, the denied party sanction list data. So this is something which we plan to launch very soon in next couple of months on our platform.
Shanghai to Shanghai to Los Angeles. So he wants to see on this route. I want to see all the shipments which are into the same quality, the same import that I do, which is shirts. So I'm just right now using a particular kind of shirts, but I'm just taking the example of all the shirts here so that you see how we can find out the basic information on who all are importing shirts, which shipments, etc. But then how do you find a port or a particular route? You can actually go to the advanced search option at the top, and you can see that all these shipments which we searched for the last 3 months, which had shirts in the shipments, can actually also be seen from the way that the US port of arrival was Los Angeles and the port of shipment was, so Shanghai was the one I think Michael has mentioned. So this is Shanghai, and the same shipments now will appear only for this route. And Michael, you can be rest assured that this will cover all the shipments which came on this particular route. What you see here not declared is earlier when Shalabh mentioned that you also have the option of not declaring it, your shipments here. But these are, I think, the shipment searches for the last 2 months on this port. These are all the, I still need to put shirts again. So I'll put shirts here. I'll do this, and you will see like these many people or these many shipments, 285 shipments. And you now know, Michael, who are the other competitors who are importing via this particular route. So probably they are buying from the same kind of suppliers. And who are the kind of suppliers? Probably some of your suppliers are supplying on this route. And you can also very interestingly see, if you have a service level agreement with your supplier in China, that I would be the only one taking a particular item from you, because you are buying in such bulk and he's a small supplier. Sometimes we do like to preserve confidentiality, but then you can always see who are the other people or who are the other importers that the same supplier is supplying to, and it might be possible that it might be an SLA breach. So that's the kind of detail you can find.
Exactly. This is possible from this tool, Mohit, where for a particular exporter, you can also download these transactions, and otherwise in the tool also you can get to know that what is the distribution of their overall shipments of over their exports or imports at a particular HS code level. And for a particular HS code also, you can identify what are the top traders, either suppliers or buyers, and what is their individual market share. As you can see in a quick search, if when we are searching for a particular HS code, let's say, you get to know about the quantity and as well as the TU, which is the 20-foot equivalent unit of a container size, that you can quickly see in the data. So yes, you can see the top players and their market share for a particular HS code, whether for a supplier or a buyer.
A lot of people across the world scrambled for shortage in supermarkets. Toilet paper was one very essential item we saw missing from a lot of shelves. And if you were dealing into toilet paper, either you were supplying it or you were buying it in US as a company, you suddenly did not know where to go, or you suddenly had a lot of problem having some eye over the entire supply chain. So let me just share my screen, show you how, here we go. Okay, so this is how the tool looks like. And since the question was on toilet paper and can somebody do anything with a data tool with a very basic thing like toilet paper? So I will come to how you can make use of this tool. This tool essentially called Trademo Intel, which is actually by our company. It can help you get to use data in a very smart fashion, because we are looking at all the shipments which are entering US, Mexico, Canada, LATAM, a host of other markets like Shalabh explained. And for the purpose of this demo, I will just show how the US import product works. So since the question was around toilet paper, I took out some time in actually figuring out what would be the HS code for the toilet paper. Now, this is very simple information. Most of the people would anyways know it if they're using it. So you go to product trend section, which is a section on the top of your menu as you log on to the dashboard. You type this and you will see discover latest US product trends, a search window. You type this HS code. Let's take up the last 1 year period, because we saw a lot of disruption starting from April when COVID limitation struck, and down to say June. And let's see how toilet paper reacted in terms of trends for shipping. So this is what you get if you're using the tool. You essentially can see how toilet paper rose in terms of US trying to import it, and then after a high in June, July, and August 2020, it suddenly dropped down again all the way down to this year. So what happened if you were an importer in toilet paper was you suddenly had a lot of scrambling to do around these months, because everybody was trying to import it, the prices were going up, and this is what a tool could have shown us, that while the trend is rising, and it is easy to say after it has happened, but what we can gather from the tool is if we are in the middle of June today, we know that not a lot of people are importing it if you compare it to the historical trends. So if you are an importer of tool, and if you are suppose sitting in June 2021, you could see that the trend has come down. You can actually negotiate better with a lot of suppliers, including your current supplier, so you can get the best of prices. And it has come down a lot from the high that it was earlier this year. So you can probably look at a lot of suppliers trying to sell it away at a much better price compared to exactly 12 months ago. Now let's see if you were there 12 months ago in that period, what you would have done. So there is a tool here which shows you can compare trends. So I'm going to this and I'm going to look at how these different countries compare when you compare China versus Vietnam. So if you see when China's share was rising, Vietnam's share was rising as well. So which means when Chinese suppliers were supplying to US, you could always turn to some Vietnamese suppliers who were smart enough to ride onto that trend either by themselves or by some US importers touching base with them and suddenly trying to import paper from Vietnam, which historically had been very low. So you can always compare this on a real-time basis. This feed comes with a 3-month lag, but this feed can tell you a lot about which are the top countries which are importing this. So if I go back to the detailed report, and if I go back again, it will tell me that what was the average price per kg over the last year, so that you know what to benchmark your importing price against. And it will tell you how different countries fare when you compare them by value, by import quantity, or by the price that every country was representing in terms of shipments per kg. So let's take an example of Chris. I mean, your case. If you were in US, I'm sure you would most likely be importing from China. But there are a host of other countries which are at par, especially if you look at pricing. Vietnam is not very different in terms of pricing from China, but not a lot of people in US who would be importing from China would know this. And this is something that data can tell you. The other few things the data can tell you is that it is coming from Latin America at a certain price. It is coming from Italy and Turkey at almost the same pricing. So you can always benchmark your pricing depending on the kind of supplier you have, depending on the region that you have. Now coming to suppose you were entering, you were making it land at a particular port of entry, and you want to see which were the port of entries which were really popular for toilet paper over the last 12 months. So again, California, the largest one, but there are, I mean, other ports, New York, New Jersey, which are importing Puerto Rico. So if you're somewhere inland and if you know that there are 3 ports which are identically and you're mostly dependent on California, you can always look at choosing a different port as well. So that's one question that I thought was very, very regular.
Yeah, I think very relevant question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to what Vivek said, since this platform gives you access to all the trade transactions in the past, you can actually search for toilet paper in the bill of lading records and find out all the suppliers from all the countries who are supplying this particular commodity to US. So in that way, this is really powerful again, that maybe you just have a couple of suppliers in your network, but you can actually identify who are the other suppliers who are supplying to other trustworthy buyers out in US.
So, yeah. So as Shala very rightly said, shipment. So I was just coming to that because the second question is actually from Mike, who's based out of Florida, and Mike is into toys import. Because this feels very daunting to contact a new supplier in a new country without even knowing their background or their track record. So here it is mostly Mike for you and for the benefit of a lot of other people. So let's see, you can search all the shipments which are coming to US imports via marine shipping using this data. So if I'm a toy manufacturer, what I will do is I will go there, either search by HS code, or I will simply type toys here and let's see what happens what kind of shipments do we see? Let's choose last 1 year's data, since this is heavy data. This will give you all the shipments in the last 1 year which came into US from across the world, which had toys mentioned in their bill of lading description, or it had a synonymous word like toys. So here it is. What we can see is there are almost 22 million shipments. 22 million shipments which came into US, which had toys mentioned in them. And if I am a small time importer with just a small team, I need not worry because it is easy to find more suppliers using the shipment data. I just go to the tool and see these shipments, and there is a tab here which shows all shipments, and there are other tabs which show unique importers and unique exporters, which essentially shows that these are the exporters who are exporting toys to US from across the world in the last 12 months. And of course, some of these are big, but then as you keep going down, you will find suppliers which you would not have heard of who are into the same line of business, and you would also be able to see what is the kind of pricing they offer, which makes it very easy for you, even if you have a small team. So do not worry about contacting 10 suppliers. You can always see their track record. Let's go to this company. This is a company which is into toys. It's called Hongshai Supply Chain. Pardon me if we have somebody from Hongshai Supply Chain here, but this is just for demonstration purposes, and this data is public data. It is available to everybody who wants to access it. So they shipped 19,806 shipments over the last 16 months. Actually, now it is showing shipments for 3.5 years. So they showed 19,806 shipments, these many trading partners, and this is the total weight. So how you can find more details about this company is what kind of trading partners they have. So this will give you some insight into whether this is a trustworthy partner. How do you reach out to the relevant contact in this company, which is in China, and you are based out of Florida? So how do you, so you look at the house bill of some of these shipments, and you will see that some of these details would be mentioned about the entire shipment. So which means that which was the consignee, which was the shipper, plus what all was included in this. So this is not exactly toys, but because this company is there, so I'm just telling you what is the kind of information that you can expect from a bill of lading. So it will exactly give you what came into that container, and what was the product description, and what were the details of the party which was to be notified in US when this shipment was coming to US. So this way you can make out who are the active shippers to US, what kind of trading partners do they have, can these people be trusted because these people are shipping regularly to US. And if I want to reach out to these people, we can always set up we can always send information here, because we have the tool, we have a tool feature which gives you access to the contact details in this company. So you can always request up to 100 if you are a small importer in very basic pro plan. If you pay annually, you can expect around 100 contact details, which are more than enough for your lead. Also, if you really think that I should notice and see how this company does for the next 1 month, how many shipments land there, and I want to really keep a tab on this company, you can always add this to your prospect exporter, so that you don't have to remember how many prospective companies every time and write it somewhere else. Similarly, you can set an email alert every time a shipment hits from this company on the ports, and this email alert can directly intimate you in the email without you even coming to the tool. So Chris, so Mike, this is for you. I mean, even as a small time importer, you can use this, you can find new suppliers, and you can actually see what is the kind of pricing they offer so that you end up negotiating great prices without really thinking about the wherewithal of a bigger company, of a big team handling your supply and sourcing. So that's the other question that I had. The other question that I see is from that I'm actually picking is from an exporter's perspective. So this is Feng. Feng is joining us from Singapore, and Feng's question is, Feng's asking us that I am only right now involved into domestic supplies of food grade, and I am thinking of improving my export. Can this tool come to my help? So I'll come to see how you can find more buyers across the world, Feng, and these would be buyers who are buying already from across the world, so they would be very open to new suppliers approaching them. And in case the product is good, you are a great sales guy, you can easily convince people to try out your product, and your export can start. Of course, there are a lot of more things to starting an export business, including knowing what are the HS codes, including what are the shipping lines, how do you navigate the pricing, how do you book it. But when you start from the very basic, you are actually first looking for a buyer, and once you have a buyer, everything else can be figured out. So these days data tools can tell you even things as you can book a particular space by contacting a freight forwarder through a tool, or with this tool which we are presenting, you can look for base information and then do some more groundwork in actually contacting the supplier yourself. We right now do not allow you contacting the importer through this tool. This is just for information purposes so that you can act on that information. So coming to your question, that if you are into food grade, so let's say you are into pickles, and pickles are doing great with Asian communities in US. And when we go to US sometimes, or when we see Asian communities or others are increasingly like enjoying the same pickles that they get in Singapore, other parts of Asia, back there in US. So let's see how many such shipments or such buyers can you find across US, and whether this is of use to somebody like you who's an exporter who has never gone out of your way. So I searched for pickles because this is food preparation. Fan might be in other areas, but I just am picking this. So these are the kind of shipments which hit US ports, which had sour pickle. You can see the details of Moldova Pickles and Salads Incorporation was importing it, and this was the consignee who placed this shipment's order, and then there was a shipper who shipped it. Shalom Packaging Solutions. So you can see some buyers who are already buying it from across the world, and this tool will give you not just more information on those particular shipments, as I already explained, but it will even tell you going the next mile and tell you what are the details of some of these buyers, and it will also tell you what is the kind of pricing they are currently buying at. Now this might look scary to some of our friends who are right now importing, and how can such an information be available, but using some AI and ML at the back end and using some dependable data sources, we are estimating a fair value. It's not like we are getting that shipping information from the US government. This is not public. This is something which is being estimated at a very I'm mixing and validating 3 to 4 data sources so that you can get to know very accurate pricing as well when you are trying to look for more buyers in US. So these are the importers who are unique importers in US who deal in such articles around pickles. So these are perfect targets for you. In fact, you're free to enjoy the free trial that we offer and use it for 3 days and find some of these without even having to subscribe to the plan. Let's see what is the kind of information you can expect on US importers if you are sitting outside US and thinking of shipping to US. So this is an importer called Broody Imports Incorporated. If you go to the company profile and if you go to view contact details, you can see where in US are they located, what is their phone number, what is the kind of revenue they already do. So this is very, very relevant information for any exporter, because this will give you the idea on who exactly would be fitting into your kind of profile. Because I might be only looking for companies which are into $5 to $10 million range, because I know my pickle is not really mass pickle, it is niche pickle, and I want to only reach out to people who are dealing in niche pickles. Now, what is the kind of information that you can act upon once you come to this tool here for an importer? So this importer's entire information is listed here in terms of all the shipments they dealt in, and quite a lot of it is in around food. So these are the ship HS codes. Most of them I can see that they are around food. These are the kind of trading. So this is the container unit, the 20-foot container unit, which is per shipment that they brought in. This is the average shipping units, the container units they ship per month. So it is definitely worth having a look at for all the prospective, because they have a lot of trading partners, which means they are very, very diversified in their sourcing base. And chances are, if you look at such trading partners which are importers, then you can stand a chance to, and they are importing from everywhere. Lebanon, Turkey, mostly these are the countries, UAE, which are famous for pickles. So Frank, you have good competition. You know whom to beat, and you know which pricing to sell at. So all the very best as you use this tool more to find more importers there. And of course, you can be, you can use this tool. You can use any other tool, but this is the kind of information which is available today, depending on the kind of information that you are looking on. There is something that I just want to, on an ending note, tell that these tools are not expensive. This is coming into all shapes and sizes, depending on the kind of business that you run or depending on the kind of company that you represent. So if you're a large company, you can go for API plans, which start from as low as $4,000 annually. And if you are a small buyer, small team, mid-sized team, you can even go for monthly pricing, which can start from as low as $99, $199. Of course, in annual plans, you can always get a lot of benefit. But if you're only wanting to commit monthly and not really wanting to commit a lot to such tools upfront before receiving the utility, the monthly plans are made exactly for you. So rather than going into too much into detail of the exact pricing today, I will just encourage you all to explore this tool, to learn more and more on how data can shape our decisions better. And whether we are a supplier, whether we are an importer, whether we are a trade finance institution consultant, we all have very rich shipment data that we can learn from and improve our decision making. So the recording of this webinar would be available to you in case you want to see later. For those who missed out, we will be sending this on email as well. Please feel free to give us feedback and of course contribute to the rich discussion we are looking to have in future series of webinars as well. Shalabh, in case you want to add a couple of lines, you can add. Otherwise, I will just tell everybody to bid adieu on a great note.
So just on our closing note, please do share your feedback on this webinar with us, and we will continue to host more webinars on explaining more use cases around how supply chain data can be utilized, and do share any queries that we have not been able to answer.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day ahead. Have a good night, depending on where you're joining. Have a great week ahead, and looking forward to more and more data, making our decisions much smarter. So all the very best. Thank you.